Howdy, I'm CyberAxe with Outlandishly Reported. This is a new channel. We're going to be talking about government bullshit, ad council, radios, news, just different things that I want to talk about that don't fit on my other channels. I think about these things all the time when I'm watching news or listening to the radio, and they're just really frustrating things that I want to go over and talk about. The very first thing I want to talk about is the ad council. I'd like to talk about how the conservative radio networks are profiting and funding the radio stations not by ads from conservatives or like-minded people, but instead off of ads from the ad council that are pure propaganda. Most of them are DEI. A majority of them are focused at minorities. Almost all of it's pure propaganda. Some of it's just flat out lies and bullshit. And I want to watch through some of these ads, and I want to talk about them. So here we go. Let's just jump in right ahead to first off, let's just look at all. So we have all of these ads, and these ads are playing on conservative radios like Glenn Beck and now I'm blanking all of a sudden all of these others. Let's go over and look at them. So KNZZ is the radio station that's in my area that does talk radio. So let's jump over and let's see. They have their own local advertisings, right? So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 6 people locally advertising. I guess these are testimonials, not their ads right now. I mean, these are the ads I've been hearing. But when they don't have ads on the radio, then they play the propaganda of the government by default. And that's the real problem, is every one of these shows, Glenn Beck, Clay and Travis, Buck Saxton, they're one of the worst. Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, all of these people get on every day and talk about how they are against government waste, they're against government propaganda, they're against DEI programs, they're against the woke agenda, they support Trump, but yet their shows and radio stations are being funded and supported by the ad council ads every day, every hour, every ad break in most cases. And these are some real fucked up ads in some cases. A lot of cases, they're just stupid. Like, you get into the emergency preparedness. One, there's a whole set of ads for diversity. I want you to pay attention to the diversity of all these ads. Also pay attention to what language the text's in the ads. Remember, these are government, taxpayer-paid, and corporate-paid ads.
What's
in
this?
Your dollars.
We need to keep our family communication plan safe in case of an emergency.
Thanks, Tita.
Start a
Huh. That's an interesting ad. Seems very diverse.
Conversation with your family and plan together for emergencies.
Okay. Hey, let's just plan together. Okay, let's try another one. These are by FEMA. These are taxpayer. Trump is funding these. Trump's government is now funding all these ads.
Well, good thing we kept all the lights we used for the dolly.
What was that word? I didn't recognize that word. Good thing we have all these LED lights in a box right here. Oh, hey, I've got a random battery pack that I just pulled out magically with this cable. This will be perfect. You notice the lights are on without the battery pack? This is great. Let's waste our power. You notice how bright it is in this room already?
I'll keep my phone powered so we don't miss any alerts.
Yeah.
What about game night?
Start a conversation with your
Let's
family
have a
and
game
plan
night.
together for emergencies.
Let's plan together. Sure is a diverse group of people. Planning together. Two for one. I wonder what this is going to be. Look at the dates on these. These are all current ads. All of these ads were made after.
Mom, did you really need to buy 2 can openers for our emergency kit?
Let's start with a few things. Once again, very diverse crew. It seems like FEMA and this ad council don't understand DEI or woke or hiring diverse people. We haven't seen one white family yet, or even one white person. Notice the characters. These are American ads. They had an artist or someone, probably not this kid, they had someone write this stuff down and scribble this out for diversity.
I can't help it. They're 2 for 1.
Start a conversation.
Notice the consumerism. You don't need either of these. This is an emergency prepared kit. You already have one of these in your kitchen. It will last forever. You don't need 2 can openers. But hey, oh, you're an old struggling lady, probably on Social Security, that's not making a lot of money. But go out and consume. Buy stuff you don't need and put it in this container. Versus just being ready to grab the one you do have, or have a pocket knife that can open it. Nope, instead you need to have can openers. You need to have 2 of them in this little box. Not food, not water, 2 can openers. And don't forget the diversity. You gotta keep your language.
For emergencies.
Plan together. Okay, so that's we're really doing good here. Let's see what the alternate version of this one is, because they had a second version. What? Oh, montage. Okay, sorry.
Mom, did you really need to buy 2 can openers for our emergency kit?
I can't help it.
You notice it's a shitty ass flashlight instead of like an LED, and they got a pack of batteries there.
They're 2 for 1. What's this?
2 for 1 can openers.
Safe. In case of
I wanted. Let's go back. Was that in something I want to notice?
an emergency.
Thanks, Tita.
Yeah,
should think
I
ahead
like
to-
the old cookies. You remember? Remember, Barry? You remember when Grandma had cookies? Remember before COVID when Grandma was alive, but COVID paid for by the government killed Grandma, and then the vaccines finised off the others.
Keep Mom and Dad safe when it
Remember?
floods this year. I've got an evacuation route loaded in my phone.
I've got an updated list of Dad's meds.
Man, those are nice earrings. Some fancy
And
diversity
I've got just
here.
what we need to get them to take this seriously.
Wow.
Start a conversation with your family and plan together for emergencies.
FEMA. Wow. That is some. Okay, let's see the ones targeted as kids. Remember, advertising to children is against the law in most cases. It's against the rules to advertise to children on YouTube and most platforms. But here, FEMA is making a cartoon for your children. Dogman is what it's called. That is not woke DEI approved. Dogman 10/21/2024.
Nobody is more prepared for an emergency
Dogman.
than Dogman.
With all your kung fu
Dogman.
skills and your canine fortitude or whatnot.
But for the rest of us, a good plan goes a long way.
No time to waste.
Get started today at ready.gov/kids.
How is the government advertising to your kids and telling them to go to a website? They're using DreamWorks. They're putting DreamWorks in this shit. This is what the government is funding. Trump is now funding this trash. Let's try the next one. Who's this guy? Take control.
When it comes to disasters and emergencies, it's not a matter of if, but when.
I'm relying on luck, but who knows if it'll be on my side.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Take control at ready.gov/older adults.
So, Do you notice one, older adults are the only ones that are the stupid ones that say, I'm going to take the risk. You also notice it's the male that says it, but the woman is the one giving the radio and the solution and knows what up. Knows what up. Because DEI matters. Everybody should be treated the same. Nobody should be treated with ageism or sexism like FEMA seems to be doing. Not to mention, we haven't seen a white person yet. We'll see one soon, though. Just one, though. Remember, these are government ads. Okay, here we go. Look at the diversity. This is a FEMA ad in the United States. I don't know what the numbers are. Minorities, make up like 30%? Every one of these ads has been full minorities. Not a single white person in any of them.
Plans, you are the
also notice their cultures. They're all celebrating the minority culture.
best. The same.
This is one of my favorites. Okay, watch this one.
Oh. Start
do we
planning
go
to
back?
protect
Oh,
you and
it's
your
not
loved
that
ones
one.
from.
Okay, we got to stop here. So this is their big plan for you to save yourself when they don't show up. Hawaii, children died, lots of them, stuck at home. Because they didn't issue the warnings, because they didn't tell people, because they didn't manage the power lines, because they didn't have the system set up for evacuation, the government. North Carolina, government. Ohio, government. The Ohio train wreck just settled for like $600 million or something because the government and the corporations failed you. Now, tell me, one, what doctor is going to give you 5 bottles of pills in the United States? Have you been to a doctor? I mean, if your doctor will give you 5 bottles of pills for an emergency kit, wow, you must be rich, because only like a Michael Jackson or a good old boy with a lot of money and a lot of clout gets a whole bunch of pills extra. Nobody gets extra pills. Batteries. The ends of these batteries aren't taped. They're in a plastic bag that can be punctured. They should be in a hard container, and the end of the battery should be taped so that they can't touch each other, because the fact that they can touch each other could cause a spark and could cause other issues, including catching on fire. This is a basic rule of recycling batteries. Before you put batteries in the trash, which you're not supposed to do, you're supposed to put batteries in a recycling container and then send them to the recycling center. You're supposed to tape the ends of the batteries so that they don't cause fires, because even dead batteries can cause fires, and charged batteries can cause worse fires. Let's look at these bottles. This is enough water for one person one day. There's $21 we can see in here. Tell me what that's going to get you. $21, 1 days of water, and some bandages. How is that going to get you anywhere when the government fails you and your house burns down? Why is the checklist not in English? We're in the United States. This is a United States government-paid propaganda ad, and it's not even in English. Notice the diversity. Notice how diverse this is. Notice what cultures these are going after. Notice how, once more, there's not a single white person in any of these ads yet. This water isn't enough for one person for 1 day. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. You have 6 people, 1 backpack, 1 kit. They took the labels off the food cans. Only a psychopath takes the labels off food cans. A psychopath. What about the expiration dates? Some cans might have them stamped on the can, but other foods stamp them on the labels. How are you going to know what they are? What about food allergies? You know this little boy has a peanut allergy. It's 2025. He's not going to be able to eat 2 of those cans of food because of what's in them, but now you don't know which 2 are in there to be able to check the ingredients. Like, this is insulting to anybody that does have a prep system. This is insulting to anybody that doesn't believe the government should be putting out propaganda and should be lying to people. The government is the one failing. If the government put 1 fucking penny and cent into stopping the disasters and managing the forests and managing the problems before they happen, they wouldn't fucking happen in the first place. But instead, they put their time and energy into bullshit fucking DEI shit like this, and the radio stations and conservatives are using that money to prop up radio stations instead of being honorable and honest people and calling this shit out. Clay and Buck know that this type of propaganda is being played on the radio stations that they profit from every day. Glenn Beck knows that this shit is being played and propaganda to their customer base every day, and the government deliberately goes after these people and goes after us, the American citizens, through these radio stations because they know that we're checking in to try to hold the government accountable and find out what's going on, and they use that against us. And Clay and Buck don't have the balls. They have these itty-bitty little raisins. They don't have the balls to come out and hold the government accountable and hold these radio stations accountable and get real funding from conservatives and real businesses and get the government out of our lives. Why do I need to listen to this government propaganda every 15 minutes at every ad break because the people on the radio stations can't get their shit together and get real advertising and fill these slots? The government should not be allowed to do this, and yet they're allowed to do it. And these conservatives are being funded and profiting off it. They're profiting off federal tax dollars and corporate big giants putting this propaganda out to the citizens of America, and they ignore it because they make money on it. It props up these radio stations. Everybody came out, oh, George Soros is buying the radio stations. The radio stations are already owned by the government. They're the ones funding them. When they don't have ads for local stuff, this is the default that plays on every one of these stations. And when you call and complain, they don't do anything because they don't want to go out and raise actual ad revenue and actually do their fucking job and run a real business. They want to continue to get money off the backs of the citizens and the American people. They want to keep getting this free money, and they don't have to do anything. It's sick. And until Glenn Beck and Clay and Buck and all these other people hold these stations accountable and do something, it's not going to stop. And the fact that I have to listen to this propaganda just so I can listen to Clay and Buck is insulting. It's offensive. It's harassment. I should not have to listen to this DEI woke garbage every fucking 15 minutes because I want to get the news. Let's see how the best planner BBQ goes. Lopez. Huh. I wonder who these people are.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best.
You're the best.
The same way you plan.
If you're the best, could you please stop being so fucking selfish and go work for the government? Could you go to California and actually plan out stuff so that there's water in the hydrants and the forests don't burn down? How about if you're the best planner, could you not have this black guy feeding a corn cob to this white lady's fucking mouth like it's a big dick? How about that one? Could we do that one? Could we not have this guy with a corn cob shoving it in this chick's mouth? If you're so good at planning your events. Look at the DEI of this. Look at the ethnicity of this. Watermelon. The token black lady with the afro. The white kid in the back dancing for TikTok. The old man having fun. harassing the white lady. The Chinese over here, or I don't even know. Did you see this? The token bearded white guy? You're going to see these same representations in multiple videos because they have a checkbox and they got to check off the box. But these are the first white people we've seen in any of these ads. And you see how they're being represented.
Each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your
Hey,
loved ones from a
$20 again.
natural disaster. Protecting your...
Not in English again. You got alcohol accessible to kids. Are you kidding? You don't even have your alcohol protected. You got pills over here with grandma accessible to kids. You don't have those in lock boxes. You got shitty ass old flashlights instead of like high quality LEDs. Like the amount of space these take up is insane. You can't even get batteries for most of these. It's not even a good prep kit. Okay, let's jump over some others. Remember, this is still just emergency planning. You know.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best.
You're the
same
best.
way you plan each detail for those moments.
Yeah,
Start planning
each
to protect
detail.
you and your
Hey,
loved ones from a natural disaster.
do you notice the website's not in English either? So, American audience, non-English website, non-English instructions. Huh.
Protecting your...
It seems very diverse. You pay for these ads. You're paying to prop up these radio stations.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for...
Look at the diversity of this. So far we've done, I don't know, like 8 ads, and we have 3 white people among hundreds of diverse other
for
people.
those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved
notice
ones
how it's
from
not...
a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Yep. Let's go to ready.gov. And let's look at all of the disasters that you can have. Winter weather, wildfires, the government should manage those. Volcanoes, government should manage those. Tsunamis, government should manage those. Tornadoes, government's incompetent to be able to even give you a warning on those. Thunderstorms and lightnings, space weather. I was under the understanding space weather couldn't affect us on the planet. Oh, space weather doesn't affect climate. Space weather doesn't affect us, right? If space weather can affect us, then wouldn't it also affect climate and climate change? Doesn't that mean then the sun and the solar system and the galaxy and the universes all around us also affect the planet and climate change? Wouldn't it take understanding and being able to model the entire solar system, the sun changes, the other planet changes, and the universe to be able to predict the planet's changes? If you took all of that out and only said CO2 farts from humans and cows is the only thing that changes climate, then you might think that humans change climate instead of the sun and the solar system. I could see how propaganda might get you to go that way. But if you say space weather affects humans and space weather affects the planet, then space weather would affect climate. That means the sun and the solar system affect what's going on the planet. And if we can't model the sun and the solar system over long periods of time, then how can we model the planet and humanity's changes? Severe weather, power outages, pandemics caused by the government, like COVID, paid by you, taxpayers, millions of dollars. Vax, COVID vax, also paid by you. And it was more like billions of dollars, I think, was what we funded for COVID. Billions of dollars for the vaccine, and it killed millions of people. The vaccine and COVID together killed more than World War I and 2 or 3 times as many people as the Holocaust. So you could say the vax Holocaust because it is one. Radiation. Oh, radiation, huh? Where does radiation normally come from that we would be worried about? Nukes. They can't say nukes because if you get nuked, there's not really a lot of preparation you can do for a nuke. But you could prep for radiation exposure. Landslides into belief road. Oh, also government. Hurricanes, household chemical emergencies. Oh, household safety. Lock your doors. Home fires, chemicals and hazardous material incidents, floods, extreme heat. Explosions, earthquakes, droughts, cybersecurity, biohazard exposures like bioengineered ticks that cause Lyme disease created by the government in the 70s. Like that type of biohazard exposure making millions of people sick. Avalanches. Attacks in public places like in New York where there's a subway and someone gets pushed in front of the subway. Attacks in public places where the police refuse to keep you safe and release the criminals. I'm in Colorado where Denver is a sanctuary city and we release criminals all the time. Emergency alerts. We got to get those government emergency alerts. You remember how Hawaii sent out those government alerts to let everybody know that they were going to burn alive? Oh yeah. They didn't. Okay, let's jump over the radio ad since that's the majority of what I've been talking about. Let's just listen to us some radio. Remember, we're still in disaster prep.
Helping your inner circle prepare for emergencies can start in many ways. Put together an emergency kit with Wipeool. Create a family communication plan with your tita.
With your tita. In Wipeool, I don't know what either of those words mean. Those seems very diverse words.
To keep a backup battery charged. It all starts with a simple step, telling those you care about to be ready for the worst. So start a conversation.
What kind of backup battery? When you say a backup battery, do you mean like a UPS, like for a computer? Do you mean like a handheld, like a 4000 VA, like just USB battery? Do you mean a house battery, a solar panel system battery, like keeping a backup battery? Hey, battery. Like I'm holding a little battery. Like it's one thing if the government put out a really good system of preparedness that I could go watch if I wanted to watch it. It's another thing for the government to go out to all the radio stations and all the TV stations and all of the children's classrooms and all over the world and pay for these ads and put them out there, and the ad's quality is shit. The information you get in it is shit. It does nothing. It helps no one. You have these people and their kids in schools for 12 fucking years. If you can't teach these kids in 12 years the basics of survival and having a basic prepared kit, what the fuck is this 30-second message going to do that you repeat every 15 minutes over and over and over and over and over on the radio? What the fuck is that going to help anybody if they won't listen to the teachers and they won't listen to college professors and then they won't listen to the government propaganda for year after year after year, and you're failing them and you can't teach them in a government fucking propaganda factory? How is a 30-second ad going to do it? And why are you wasting our fucking money and our time and our energy and our sanity playing this trash-ass diversity garbage to us over and over and shoving it down our throats? Just like that lady taking the fucking corn cob. That's what the government's doing to us. Why? Because they keep fucking failing us. They have failed us where millions of people have died from 9/11 all the way up to Ukraine to, I mean, how many do we want to do? Afghanistan, Syria, all of those countries. Lots of people have died there. Lots, even Americans, American citizens held in are hostages still right now that have been there for what, 2 fucking years. They're held hostage, and we're not doing a damn thing for them. You don't see any ads out here saying, hey, oh man, don't get held hostage in another company because we're not coming for you. Don't have your house burned down in California because we're not coming to help. If you you get stuck in the house. You got yourself in that situation. They're telling you to have 6 bottles of fucking water and $21 fucking dollars. Okay, power goes out right now. It's gone. Cell service is gone right now. You got 6 bottles of water and $21. How the fuck long are you going to live? What are you going to do with $21? Wipe your fucking ass? It's only 2 bills. You could at least get the 20s and 1s so you could hand them out for food or fucking or whatever. You could trade them for a stripper or something. What are you going to do with a $20 bill at the end of the world? It's stupid ass fucking shit in the first place. It's not even good information. And then you get this, ready or regret?
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's
coming.
not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
When the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurt.
I just want to start right there. Evacuation centers are set up when the emergency happens based on where the emergency location is. I can't go find where the emergency location is before the emergency. That doesn't make any fucking sense. You don't know what the emergency is if you're in California and saying, oh, the pet-friendly emergency center is going to be at that school, and then that school fucking burns down. What are you going to do, you fucking dumb bitch? What are you going to do? You can't find an emergency center until the event, and then you don't have cell service, and then you don't have internet. That's why you need government. That's why we need radio systems that work, so you could turn your emergency radio on and you can listen for that information that tells you where to go. Did you notice that in none of these was an emergency radio? None of the prepared kits, none of the checklists. Because they don't want you to know where to go. They want you to die in your fucking house like the people in Hawaii did. Those children had no escape, nothing. And not a one of these damn ads or propaganda would have helped those children in Hawaii. You know what would have helped? The fucking fire alarms going off and the sirens going off so parents could get their fucking kids, or the kids could know that there's an alarm and could get out of the fucking house. That's what would have saved those kids. The government doing their fucking job. And instead what the government does is it pushes this fucking propaganda down our throats over and over. Do you see any of these ads saying, hey, government, put water in the fucking hydrants? Hey, government, don't drain California's lakes. Hey, let's talk about California really quick. Let's just talk about California. California is such a great place. It's a desert, you know? Everybody says, hey, California's a desert. Well, did you know that California didn't fucking used to be a desert? California used to have a big lake in it, and that lake gave moisture to all of those trees and those forests. So decade after decade after decade after decade of the 1900s, there was only 2 to 3 major fires, and they were 300 to 400 square acres. They weren't terribly big. But then the government fucked up and drained the lake. You could say they did it on purpose because it seems like that's probable. They drained the lake in California in the 70s or 80s. And now all of a sudden California has yearly fires in the millions. One reason is because they filled all this land where the lake was with houses and fake trees and fake people, fake hydrants. So now they expect everybody in the rest of the country to send them money because they fucked up their state and their environment. Now, I don't believe in man-made climate change, but I sure as hell believe in man-made environmental change, and you can see the state of California fucked us. They fucked I'm in Colorado and they fucked us. Because what they did is when they drained this, then they demanded the water from the rest of the states to fill all of these douchebags. So all these douchebags, instead of taking water from the ocean and building desalination plants, say that's not natural, that's bad for the environment. You drained the fucking lake out of the state and now it's burning to the ground, and you damaged the environment. You caused the environmental changes. You funded this government. You elected them. Nancy Pelosi's been there for decades, hasn't fixed this, hasn't solved this, hasn't put nature back to where it goes. Where's the reparations for the state of California for being raped? You raped it. You took its water away. You let it go into the oceans, and now it's gone, and now you rape us for our water and for our money because you're fucking morons. Yeah, you. It's like funding COVID and the vax and then blaming China. You, the U.S. taxpayer, funded COVID. You funded it. You funded the vax. You elected the douchebags doing it. And you're the one not willing to hold them accountable. You're funding this bullshit. So let's go back. How about let's jump over to community? I'm sure community's gonna be really good. Hey, we fucked up California, so you should send them money. Send them money, 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 money. Look at all those dollar bills. Good thing you only have $1 in your disaster kit. You can only send them one. You don't want to send them the 20. Right? You can only send them that $1. Make even a small donation can make a difference. Support disaster relief. I am 100% sure that all the dollars funded into this program, by the Ad Council is going to be really well spent, really well used. It wouldn't go into, some propaganda ads instead, talking about how parents and how we need to have more fathers. Fatherhood. Responsibility clear.
I never realized that I'd be taking care of a 2-year-old and a 9-year-old on my own. Sometimes as dads, I think we're too hard on ourselves. We get down on ourselves on not being able to, we're the providers, but we also have to learn to take care of ourselves. Self-love made me a better dad because I realized my worth.
Self-love made me a better dad. This is a big there's a PSA that we'll watch later that is, I graduated. I got my GED. I came to America as an immigrant. And I didn't have a college, I didn't have a high school diploma, and I couldn't get a job anywhere. I couldn't get a job, man. That's too stupid. But I went and I got my GED. I took a test and I passed it, and now I'm smart and I have the best job and I got a mansion. I got to meet Oprah. I am the champion because I got a GED. America rates like 14th out of 14 in the top countries on education system. You would have been better off staying where you were, getting the education system from there, and then coming here.
My daughter Isabella recently had a graduation into high school, and I got emotional. because I saw pride in her eyes. I saw my daughter have her
It just
own
hits me in the
self-love,
heart, man.
and I saw the
These
hard
diverse.
work of me being that dad 24/7.
If he wasn't there, she would have never graduated. Only dads. Only dads. What the fuck is this shit? In the middle of all of the trans trash that they're pushing on us in the DEI, they're going directly after saying fatherhood. Fathers. Fatherhood. Fathers. Fatherhood. Look at the single father. Look, dadification. Fathers. We need more fathers. Look at Biden. Biden was such a good father. He married the nanny. Right? I'm pretty sure that was Biden. Oh, maybe it wasn't the nanny. Maybe it was his brother's wife or something. I don't know. I can't keep it all straight. It was Tim that got the nanny pregnant. That was a good one. Fathers first. This is when DEA and the federal government come in, bash down the doors. They gotta have bars on their shit. Bash down the doors and like tackle him. And look at all of these. Look at all of these ads just going datification. Min feelings.
The word father means a lot to me. Being that support system for them.
These are
as a
all
man,
from Josh.
It's important in a
Yeah. Let's see what Alex has to say.
August was born 3 pounds, 9.8 ounces. When I first saw him, it was a whole range of emotions. There's stuff I still want to do.
I don't know what this whole thing is. This doesn't make sense. Why? Oh, wait. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families, U.S. Department of Health and Services Administration for Children and Families, there we go. Here, WWE, Amazon Studios, Campbell E. Ward, Ad Council Creative Studios. See, the Ad Council is funding itself. This is just laundering. It's money laundering. Park Films. This is just some bull fucking shit. Okay, let's go back. So that's all that they've got in the social side of it. That's crazy. The community. All they're talking about community right now is just men. Okay, I think this is the high school one. Let's see. Yearbook. What is this? When you graduate.
This message is for Shauna, my mom, who just finished her high school diploma. I wanted to say I'm so proud of you for finishing school. You told me it's never too late to achieve your dreams. I hope to make you as proud.
This kid didn't come to the ad council and say, hey, I'm really proud of my mom. I want to write this. They produced this. This is fake. It's bullshit.
How does you have made me?
When you graduate, they graduate. Finish your high school diploma for you and for...
You know who benefits from you finishing your high school diploma the most? The government. You got to keep those people in these public schools.
For you
if
and your
if these people stop going to public schools, they lose control of them.
Visit to find free adult education centers near you. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Nobody's paying for them. They're free.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have...
I'm sorry, but I could have made a better ad. Finishing high school doesn't mean shit to my education. It's just because of the, the social pressure, the peer pressure. I bet there's an ad on here saying stand up to peer pressure, stand up to social pressure. Don't give in to the bullies and the haters. And the government is the biggest bully and hater. You didn't finish high school, you.
passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma
What
alone.
the fuck
If you're
does it
thinking of
get
finishing
you?
your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you.
It's not free. It's government funded. It's paid for by you and me. They're giving our money to other people because they're stupid. What? A GED is literally a piece of paper that does nothing for you. It doesn't get you jobs. It doesn't do shit for you. If you can speak English and you can show up with a brain, they don't give a fuck. And yet you're telling someone at 30 that they need to go back and pass a test to feel good about themselves? How fucking dare you? What kind of piece of fucking shit says your value is determined by a high school fucking piece of paper when most of the schools in the United States are failing students? 10% of schools in Denver even have tech programs in 2025. 10%. That includes typing as a tech program. They aren't teaching shit. And you think a high school fucking GED diploma is going to get you something? Are you a fucking idiot? Of course you are. You went to a government fucking school. And you didn't even finish it. If you're 30 thinking about getting a fucking GED, take the time and energy and build a fucking skill. Build a skill. Take your hands and make something. Plunge a toilet. Do something for the love of God. Do not go back into the public school system and give them more of your life so they can stick their finger up your ass like you're a fucking... No. High school diploma matter to your value. High school diploma. You gotta have a high school diploma. Like, what the fuck kind of moron are you?
Obtén tu diploma de secundaria por ti y por tu familia. Visita
Your
completa tu diploma.org
tax
para
dollars
encontrar centros
flushing
educativos
down
gratuitos cerca de ti.
the
Presentado
toilet,
por Dollar General
telling
Literacy Foundation
people
y DEI
to
Council.
do stupid shit. Stupid shit. Okay, let's get on to the next category. Imagine how good it gets if this is education. Saving for retirement? Who the fuck can save for retirement right now? Prices are 3 fucking times to 10 fucking times more than they were just 4 years ago. Are you fucking kidding me? Save for retirement? If you don't save for retirement, you're a loser. You don't have any value. Your value comes from your checking account and your retirement.
I'm your retirement fear, but don't be scared. You're still in pre-retirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. This is pretirement.org.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
Retirement looks different for all of us. Create a personalized plan you can use to save more for tomorrow and stress less to today. Start making steady progress towards your retirement. Let me ask you something. If I can't afford food today and I take 20% of my budget after taxes, that's like, taxes is what, 60%? So I have 40% left after taxes. Keep in mind that 60% of taxes is paying for this trash. So after I pay my 60% taxes, I get my money and I struggle to buy food, and I'm going to feel less stressed today if I take that money that I would like to eat and I put it in an account for tomorrow. Now, if you take inflation and the value of the dollar's dropping and purchasing power, if you put $1 in the bank yesterday or invested it and then looked at it today, you would want to put a bullet to your head. It's very depressing. It's very stressful. So not only is this ad a lie and just pure bullshit, It's not reality. It's so disconnected to the average American. What is it, like 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? So who is this ad for? The retirees on Social Security that are getting $900 a month, they're going to, not take some pills today so that they could have some retirement money tomorrow that they might not even live to? A better ad would be, hey, do what you can to enjoy today and not be stressful today, because you might not live till tomorrow, especially under this government. I mean, your house could burn down and there could be no water in the hydrant, and you could die inside. You could die from the food in your cupboard because the FDA failed you to protect it. You could die from eggs. You could die from anything. You could die from a plane falling out of the sky, or a helicopter in a plane crash like happened last night because the government failed you. But if you just put some money in savings, things will be better. You'll be less stressful today. Like, who the fuck are you? The people that are living off of the government, that are getting money from the government, from you, are telling you that you would feel better if you just took this money away into some government plan instead of taking care of yourself today. And I'm not against the concept of preparing for tomorrow at all. I just think it's unfucking realistic with how they've destroyed the country and the economy and inflation and cost, and we're struggling to eat, and they're saying, oh, you'd feel so much better if you just didn't eat a meal today and save that money instead. Fuck you. Let's see what the USDA has to say about fire protection. Now, I want to really, before we start this one, fire protection is an interesting subject. And we talked about California already. We talked about the lakes in California. So I would like to just start off by saying, only you and the government can stop wildfires. Only you and the government cannot drain lakes. Only you and the government cannot drain reservoirs. Only you and the government cannot redirect water into the ocean. Only you and the government can keep water in the hydrants. Only you and the government can maintain the forest and take out all of the dead. Only you and the government. Now, have you ever seen a propaganda ad targeting the millions of government employees, telling them that only they, through honesty and honor and ethics and morals, can keep millions of people alive, that only they can keep the forest from burning down, that only they can keep the water clean in our systems like in Flint, Michigan, that only they can keep the system from allowing rapists and illegals out on the streets that murder people every day? Only the government. Only the government. Only the government. But what do we get? What do our tax dollars get us?
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we...
Now, one, Smokey Bear is no longer a paid actor. Smokey Bear is now CGI. So let's just talk about jobs. Smokey Bear is no longer a man coming up to you and telling you things in a furry costume. Smokey Bear is now DEI hires and DEI people of ethnicity.
Don't want to start a wildfire.
Teaching you what's good and what's smart because you're too fucking stupid to know how to put out a fire. You went to a government school for 12 years. Supposedly you graduated. And you don't know how to put out a fire. For at least 25,000 years, we have recorded history of humans using fire and putting fires out. But in the year 2025, U.S. government propaganda factory schools do not teach how to put a fire out. We have to rely on the U.S. government using extra taxpayers beyond the $20,000 per student per year that we already pay for these students. Keep in mind that's $20,000 per year per student times 12 for the entire life of that student. So somewhere around $120,000 to $150,000 depending on where you live per student. So in $125,000 per student on average over 12 years, we are unable to teach how to put out a fire. And we have to rely on these ads to do it. And the Boy Scouts.
All right.
Only you can prevent wildfire.
Only you and the government can prevent wildfires. Only you and the government can put out wildfires. Only you and the government can manage forests so wildfires don't burn down our homes. Wouldn't that be a better ad? Wouldn't that be a more reasonable ad to see? The government has been responsible for millions and millions and millions of acres of burned land, most of it private land. Tens of thousands of houses and structures burned and countless lives lost. But this is what matters to the government, telling you how to put out a fire. Oh, don't forget that all of these are sponsored, supported, and encouraged by Glenn Beck and your conservative radio hosts like Clay and Beck. Clay and Buck. The Clay and Buck Show. Man, I miss Rush Limbaugh. I know Rush had enough advertising that he didn't need this shit. I know the radio stations back then still were using some of this, but at that point, the radio stations had salespeople that went out and got sales and got people to fund ads. They didn't need this shit. But because the radio stations have done so poorly, and stations and shows like Glenn Beck and Clay and Buck aren't pushing that profit down into the radio stations, they're keeping the profit up in the sky, the radio stations are suffering. In a lot of cases, the only way the radio stations stay open is government funding. Did you know that the U.S. radio system, controlled by the FCC and tariffed by the FCC, is only staying funded because of government tax dollars? But yet you don't hear it. You hear about Soros buying over stations and how horrible that is. But what about the government takeover of all these stations? The government is using radio stations to put out ads every 15 minutes or so. Every ad break, they're playing this trash. Okay, let's jump over to health and wellness. This is where we're going to jump off the cliff. Let's start with drugs. Damn, my camera keeps turning off.
Danny, wake up!
Danny.
Danny! Labs.
Danny, we need to talk.
Danny! She's overdosing.
Okay, let's stop right here. We're going to see a whole bunch of these ads, and one of the things that none of these ads do is they don't tell you how to identify the overdose or what's going on. So that's just my personal history. Let's go back. I was at the Halo 2 release. We're at a mall. There's a lot of people, huge line around the corner, and the person behind us falls on the ground and starts shaking. Should I give them Narcan? Should I give them an opioid nose spray for overdose? Should I assume that everybody is having an overdose? Or could they be having a stroke or a seizure or heart failure or a COVID reaction or a vax reaction or countless other issues? And yet this PSA from the government, once again, these kids are in schools, government schools for 12 years, but we have to get them through ads because those kids really listen to government PSAs. This really is how you get to kids. This is how you teach kids. Screw the education system, screw the Department of Education, screw all of that. You want to talk to your kids, put out a TV ad. Put out a radio ad. That's how you get that generation. So let's see. This PSA is for informational purposes only. Now, I think the ad council should be sued into oblivion because this is not for informational purposes only. This is a call to action. This is telling these kids that if you see someone overdose, you need to have Narcan, whatever, in your purse, and you need to administer it to that person. Now, what if that person dies because of it? What if that person dies either way? What if that person has debilitating problems for the rest of their life? Is the ad council going to cover that because they didn't provide the information of side effects and all of the other information needed? You notice they're not saying call 911 and tell the person on 911 the symptoms and then get their advice. Make sure to tell them you have some Narcan with you. No. They're saying, your friend says she's overdosing, shove this up her nose. It does not contain or consult medical advice. It's not medical advice. It's not, but yet it is. It literally is telling teens, which also is illegal to advertise to on YouTube and most platforms. You're not allowed to advertise to children over 13. Now, she's at a party, she's got rings, she's got tits. You could say she's not 13. You could say she's under 18 or 16, and this still shouldn't be provided and advertised to this age group. But they're still going to do it. We have children ads in here that they use DreamWorks characters. It's not okay for the smoking industry to use cartoons to propagandize to children, but it's okay for the government to do it. So here we go. If you suspect an opioid overdose, call emergency services immediately and administrate Narcan 1, this is their product they're trying to push, according to the instructions provided. Do you notice that the ad didn't say that? And watch how fast this text is.
When
so
no one
let's
else knows what
let's
to
do this.
It's got to be you.
Right there. It's got to be you. It's a call to action. Carry this, you could save their lives. Now, they're not saying inject it,
you could save a
but
life.
they're going to show that in the next one. You just wait. So let's do it again. And I want you to see how fast that disclaimer text passes by and how blurry it is, how small it is, and tell me that anybody is going to see that and actually be able to understand that this ad is not telling you to just administer it yourself. Plus, if you call the authorities, they're going to get in trouble. That kid's parents are going to find out. They're going to go to the emergency room, and it's all going to go downhill from them. So the incentive is not to call 911 and to do what the ad says, because the ad show you what to do. You just let them sniff it. How irresponsible is this of the ad council? How irresponsible is this of the government to use your dollars to propagandize children and teens into administering a medical medicine in a critical situation to their friends that they could kill with it?
Danny, she's overdosing.
1, 2, 3, 4
When no one else
seconds.
knows what to do, it's got to be you.
4 seconds for them to notice and read the disclaimer saying that this is not medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. Shame. Shame on the ad council. Shame on the President of the United States Executive Office. Trump, you are funding these programs right now. These programs have been continued from Biden and are still on the website, and their radio ads are still playing.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
My favorite.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. Really just...
Hey, on a side note, if you show drugs in a movie or in a TV show, it's instantly R-rated, right? But they can show you drugs in a PSA ad in someone's hand, and it's no big deal. Why is this not rated and protected information and kept away from kids just like anything else? Why are they showing this type of content to children on everyday TV with no warnings and no oversight? Why is that allowed? If smoking a cigarette requires it to be PG or PG-13, why is showing drugs directly on TV and talking about it directly to your children not a sensitive subject?
It's all about the money.
Because the government's doing it. Even though they're lies, the government's doing it. Now, you might have missed it. We'll watch it again because I talked through it. This is one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, this is good. Why would drug dealers lace their drugs and kill their customers? That's what this ad is trying to answer.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. Really
Okay.
just all about the money.
Let's stop there. It's cheap, it's profitable, it's easy. So, their logic is that it's okay and people are going to murder other people if it's cheap, easy, and profitable. Now, what other things are cheap, easy, and profitable that we could talk about? How about the pharmaceutical industry, COVID and the vax? It was cheap to make, it was easy to infect tens of millions of people, and it was profitable. How about the 70 vaccines currently on the children's schedule to have before they're 18? They're cheap, they're easy to distribute with government control, and they're profitable. We could apply cheap, easy, and profitable to almost everything in the government. Why is abortion allowed? Why are 300 million babies aborted? Because it's cheap, it's easy to do and get out to everybody with government control, and it's profitable. Why do we allow children under the age of 18 to decide to cut their dicks off or cut their tits off? Because it's cheap, easy to spread the propaganda, and it's profitable. See how this works with everything? You could apply cheap, easy, and profitable to the excuse of murdering anybody at any time. You could apply it to any part of the government. Why did the government allow the children, the 18 children at Uvalde and the 2 adults, to be executed while 70 police officers waited outside? Because it was cheap, easy, and profitable. The cost to train and replace an officer in the United States is $50,000 to $100,000. The cost to pay out a wrongful death case is much less over time. So if you do the math, it's actually cheaper to allow the children to die. It's easier because if the officer went in there and shot an innocent child, that lawsuit would probably be more than all of the lawsuits of all of the other children combined. Because at this point, the state's not liable, supposedly, for those children's deaths because they didn't intervene. Now, you could say they were liable because they didn't lock the doors and keep the maintenance on the doors locked, but they'll just get, that's a technicality. So you could easily use the concept of lifeboat, which is what this is. This is taught in the 70s and 60s and before. You can look it up. But the value of a human. What is the value of a doctor versus the value of a mentally reduced capable person versus a child versus a pregnant lady versus a senator? I can already see in your brain, you calculate, oh, a doctor, a senator, oh, a teacher, oh, a child, oh, a pregnant lady, oh, she might be sick. Old man, how about an old man? Old white man, what's the value of an old white man? You can very easily put value systems into this, and this is what the public education system taught at one point during the 70s. I mean, kind of an interesting thing. There's a artist named Steve Tyler, not the Steve Tyler that you know, but a different Steve Tyler, and he has a song called Lifeboat that talks about this directly. So, saying that drug dealers kill their customers because it's cheap, easy, and profitable. Explain to me how it's profitable to kill your customer. Let's just take Shark Tank. It costs money to buy a customer. Drug dealers have to have the same business logic. It costs money to acquire a customer. Having that customer die is not profitable. You lose money in having to pick up a new customer. It's basic business even for drug dealers. So to say that drug dealers are deliberately out murdering people because it's profitable, that's what a hitman does. That's what people trafficking on the border do. That's where they make money. Drug dealers don't make money by killing their customers. That's not how it works. It also brings a lot of unneeded attention to their drug dealing. So unless they're an idiot drug dealer, which there are some of them out there, but most drug dealers are more intelligent, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense from any standpoint. And their logic could be applied to the government in almost every situation of the government. Why are government schools so bad and failing so many kids? Because it's cheap, it's easy, and it's profitable. Why is our health system failing so many sick people? Because it's cheap, it's easy, and it's profitable. What? It's bullshit. Chemistry. This is the chemistry one. See if we're going to learn any chemistry.
A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it? I won't know.
It's scary that it can be put into anything when you can't even see it or notice it.
So, DARE used this. Christian schools and churches also use this scare tactic, and in my opinion, it's disgusting. You give everybody a candy. One of the candies has something sour in it, and you say, "Oh, whoever got the sour one, you died." How about a better example? They put you up on stage and they give you a cup, and each one of you spits in the cup, and you get to the end and they say, "Okay, drink it." And you say, "Ew, I don't want to drink it. It's got everybody else's stuff." And they say, "Oh, well, that's how sex is. That's how STDs are. You never know when you're going to get it. You never know who has it. So live in fear. Live in fear. Believe the government. Do no drugs. Only do government drugs." If you notice in some of these, they'll say, "Oh, well, fentanyl can be pressed into looking like a normal pill." Oh, and did you know that a whole bunch of the actual medicine that you'd get at the pharmacists were intercepted, and fentanyl pills were put in real medicine to smuggle, and then it was lost. So there's just this random fentanyl poisoning out there in the pharmacy, in the medical system, and you could roll the magic lottery and get it. And instead of stopping them at the border and not allowing them to come in with a wall, or how about this? We shoot the motherfuckers. We shoot them. How many people do you think have to be shot on the border before people stop trying to cross the border? You don't want to shoot them? Guns are bad? Release the lions and the tigers and the bears and the crocodiles between the fences, and let's feed nature, let nature do it. But what the fuck are you doing telling us that it could be in anything, even your medicines in your counter or your vitamins? It could be pressed into anything. It could be anywhere, anytime at all. But we're not going to stop them at the border coming in. We're not going to stop them coming across. We're not going to build a wall. We're not going to stop it. We're just going to keep letting it come in, and you just keep fearing and keep buying more Narcan, and you just have 50, have 1,000, have 100,000, injections. Everybody should have one carried in your wallet. Let's all carry it, and then the next drug comes out. And they don't work for that drug. And then you're going to have to carry that one too. And then you're going to have to carry that one too. And you know why all this happened? Because they demonized cannabis. Because they started a war that was illogical, that had no science backing it, because they're racist motherfuckers. And you can go back and you can look at all the cannabis statements and all the laws and why all this started, and you simply look at the sentences around those laws when they're talking about the people they're talking about. And why cannabis was demonized. Right? Now, if we take cannabis out of there, we'll move it over here, and we take those other drugs that kill you, and we put them in here and say, hey, these are important. We should stop these coming through the border. Then all of a sudden, people stop dying. I think the government schools are so fucked up, and there's so much stress, and there's so much suicide rates of children and teens, that if a teen wanted to smoke pot like they did in the 80s and 70s and 60s, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Because most of the people in Congress smoked pot when they were teenagers, and it didn't really do anything to them. They're alive, and they're thriving, even despite the government's failures and bullshit. So if they need something to help them cut the problems and cut their struggles and help them out because they're going to a government school that's failing them and their parents are fucked up and failing them, yeah, I think it's way better than alcohol. It's way better than all these other things. It needs to have some moderation. Now, if they can't get cannabis, and then they say, well, I got this pill for you, but it could kill you. Or you could take this flower that I grew in my backyard, and it would just give you a nice relaxing time. We need to have outlets for teens. We need to have outlets for adults. That's why we had cigarettes. That's why we have alcohol. Now, not in moderation. Alcohol causes lots of problems. So we should be teaching moderation. Instead, they're just fear-mongering because they allowed fentanyl in. They failed to secure the border. They failed to protect the schools. They failed to protect the children. And now you need to carry this stuff around just in case. It's insane. Cause and effect. Let's look at cancer. Now, the cancer one, I want to flip over to the radio one. They They don't. It doesn't look like they have the military one still going.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the...
Because the dose of the CT scan was what was holding you back from getting checked all this time.
First step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council. You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former...
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk.
8 million.
That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life.
Why do you have to be eligible? We can't help everybody. You have to qualify.
You wanted to be cool, which led you to smoking, which led to a pack a day. Then you met that special someone, which led to starting a life with them, which led to wanting to live longer, which led to quitting. Then you heard
which led to a government ad that saved your life. Because if you didn't hear this government ad saying that there was a new CT scan that was had less damage to you, less potency, and you could do it in 60 seconds. Oh, it changed your life.
You may be at risk for lung cancer, which led you to getting a low-dose CT scan. If you smoked, get scanned. Talk to your doctor and learn more at SavedByTheScan.org.
Saved by the scan. The scan saved me. Now, let's look at how lame this shit is. This is where your tax dollars are going. If you donate to the American Lung Association, they're not putting it into helping people. They're putting it into
Your
propaganda.
lungs. Even though you quit smoking years ago, you may be at risk for lung cancer.
But with the routine screening, you can detect it early.
Learn more at...
So, one of the other things that's really fun is one of these ads will say, I know all this because they force these ads on me all the time. One of these ads will say, anybody with lungs can have lung cancer. So now it's not just, oh, hey, smokers, it's everybody. Everybody needs to get scanned because anybody with lungs, if you got lungs.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years.
Look at how disgusting this is.
And now there's a new lung cancer
How
screening
can you play this in front of kids? Even having one person smoking in a TV show or a movie requires it to be like PG or PG-13. But the government can play this type of trash on ads with no question.
Could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your
So it doesn't matter how much you smoke, even if you smoked one time, early detection can help you. You don't have to have a mountain of cigarettes. So why did they show all of that but to fuck with you? To fuck with your brain. It's gross. A hope story. Hill Holiday Agency. The amount of money and the diversity.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now
Life is so much brighter now that you stop smoking. Like, fuck you. Fuck you. It takes someone with really small raisins to say that your life was dark and bitter and horrible because you smoke. The most common things that people are worried about today is Alzheimer's. You could smoke your whole life and not have cancer or lung disease. You could get Alzheimer's and you could die with it. You could get hit by a car tomorrow. You could enjoy your entire life smoking a cigarette every minute of the day, every hour of the day, and find joy in your life just fine. Your value and quality does not come from your action of smoking or not. And the fact that the government thinks that your value comes from whether you smoke or not should be a massive fucking red flag to everybody on the planet. Because if you don't do what the government thinks is happy and healthy, then they're going to put out propaganda ads telling you that you are a sad, miserable, disgusting person. And if you had just stopped smoking, everything would be better. Your life, the brightness of the universe, the food tastes better. Your world will be better. I'd like to talk about the life of the people that fund these. A lot of the people that fund these work in the U.S. government. Some of them work in Congress. Some of them are on committees. Some were appointed. Some were hired by agencies to make this content. Do you think someone that spends 8 hours a day in a government building that's stale and dry and dirty and nasty, filled with felons and corrupt people that are immoral and unethical, that spend other people's money because they know what's best for you, because they know what's best for everybody, and tell you that you have less value because of your action? Do you think that they live a bright world? Do you think 40 hours in a government building leads to a happy life? Have you watched Congress? Have you watched the White House staff? Have you seen how Obama looked when he went into office versus when he left office? Do you think that those people telling us how to live our lives are happy, bright, joyful people? Or do you think that they could just use a cigarette after sex to just take the edge off and have a nice release? Oh, I think we saw this one. This is the nasty bitch. Okay, so that was all just lung cancer. That's just one category within health and wellness. What should we do next? Let's do teen suicide and mental health. We talked about this one earlier. You notice that many of these are TikTok and Instagram focused because the government is going after your kids. Now, I'd like to talk about something really quick. Where I live in Colorado, and there's this interesting phenomenon that happens. When the government schools close for the summer, the teen crisis centers close. And you ask why? Why, when the public government schools close, do the crisis centers close as well for teens? And the crisis center people say because there's no demand. That when they're on summer break, suicide rates plummet, teen crisis plummet. And then when the school season starts back up and the kids go back to school, the Teen Crisis Center opens again. Now, if you ask the government and you say, why? Here's a good example. During COVID, they closed the schools, and all we heard from the government and the fanatics was, we have to get government schools reopened because kids are being abused at home. You can go back and look at it. In almost every interview about COVID and government schools being closed, the reasoning was because the kids were being abused by their parents. Now, if the teens are truly being abused by their parents in that amount and that percentages, wouldn't the teen crisis centers need to be open even longer hours during summer break? But yet they close completely. Completely. Because the abuse that teens feel that's causing suicide rates is coming from public schools. And you can track it by just charting the adoption of public schools and the teen suicide rates. They don't follow the adoption of cannabis. They follow the adoption of public schools. You can also track the shootings in public schools is tracked. So if you go back to the 1800s and the 1900s, the shootings for the entire century were under like 10, the whole century. And you could say, well, travel time, but the access to guns was the same. It's about 42% of the entire history of the United States is about the home gun ownership percentage. So you put that together and you say, well, why would suicide rates skyrocket only when teens are in public schools? Because just like prisons, remember, prisons and public schools are run by the same people. The same government runs both of them, and they both run exactly the same way. They both have the same meal plans and food plans and delivered services by the same people. How do you get away from that? How do you say and look at suicide rates plummeting when teens are at home versus when they're at a public school? Then you can compare those rates to private and charter schools, and you can see a dramatic difference between private and charter schools and teen suicide rates. You can also see graduation rates are sky high, and education rates and testing rates and all these things. But instead of saying, hey, we should shut down public schools because it's a health crisis to the population, to our children, the liberals and the conservatives fight to have more public school systems and more propaganda. Beyond all logic. You would think parents would be fighting so that only one parent would have to work so the other parent could homeschool, or they would do small groups and they would do online schooling. I've personally, as a parent, had frightening experiences, not only with the local school district, but with the sheriff's department, both who violated my rights and my child's rights and the school district's policy and the U.S. law, their own law of the county. They violated every single check and balance throughout the whole process, and when you call them to account, they make excuses and have no accountability. They caused damage mentally, psychologically, and physically, and take no responsibility. There is no accountability. You could see that even at Uvalde. They didn't even have the accountability to lock the doors. So, or keep the doors maintained. They knew that those doors were broken. So to have this type of shit out here saying, hey, mental health and going after your kids by the same people that are causing your kids to kill themselves is really weird. The messaging from the government seems to cause way more damage than good, and yet the government continues to force this shit down people's throats. If we were talking about idolization and people thinking about it, do you not think having ads saying don't kill yourself and suicide prevention all the time, every 15 minutes, over and over on the radio would be a problem? You're establishing the thought processes in their brains. If they're already struggling, you're adding to it. You're not helping them. You're bringing the subject back up over and over and over and over. It's disgusting. And yet, Glenn Beck and Clay and Buck and Hannity and all of those other people on this list are Mark Levin. Mark Levin, how can you stomach that your radio stations are propped up by this type of trash? I listen to you and you yell at the radio and you yell at the government and you yell at us every fucking day, and yet your voice is being funded and propped up by these douchebags, and you don't say a word about it. You don't come out and talk about these ads that we hear 5 seconds after we hear your voice. You don't come out and talk about this stuff. You don't even come out and talk about Clay and Buck promoting gambling in college sports. Clay and Buck have been pushing gambling apps for the last few months now. They make a killing on them. And I don't see Glenn Beck or Hannity or anybody else coming out and saying, what are you doing? You're trying to get your customers addicted to online gambling through sports? The percentages of it ruining families and destroying the financial stability of families is off the charts. The study showing the amount of problems that it causes to have these gambling systems out there, even in kids with loot boxes, has got the EU locking down on all this stuff. And what is Clay and Buck, the conservatives that care about your children and care about your well-being, doing? They're telling you that you get a guaranteed win. You put $5 in, you get 50 guaranteed. And then they say something like 10 million people playing. You can play in California and Colorado. Don't miss out. So they just took all of the basic Hollywood douchebag keys. Everybody's doing it. Fear of missing out. Guaranteed win. Put some dollars in so we can advertise to you and we get our referral check, and we'll all be fine. Guaranteed win. Put $5 in. Just $5. Just $5. We're talking about drug dealers and druggies, and look at Clay and Buck. They're the drug dealers of gambling. They have no clue how addicted kids are to gambling and FIFA and Madden and CSGO and all these games, and how much money it takes to get these loot boxes, and how much these kids are putting in, and how unhealthy and bad it is. And they're out there trying to get their parents addicted. Like, I miss Rush Limbaugh. I don't think Rush Limbaugh would have pushed, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe he did, but I don't think he would have done this shit. And yet, there doesn't seem to be any check and balances because it's such good money. I mean, why aren't you out there just promoting Kick and streaming on Kick and gambling sites? Just full out. Just go out. All out. Why are you tipping around college? And of all things, and I could be wrong on this because I checked out of the NFL and all of that shit when they, the DEI and woke shit. I can't do it anymore. But the college kids don't get paid any money. They're practically slaves of the universities. They make the universities billions of dollars. They can't bet on themselves and their families can't bet on them. But Clay and Buck can bet on some college kid. What, he's 20? He can't even drink. Yet you can bet on their performance and put all that weight of all of that money on that kid. And you think that's healthy and okay? Like, it's one thing to bet on pro sports. But college sports? Like, I mean, that's another level of scumbag. Like, especially to be someone out there saying, oh, I think college athletes should get paid. Oh, but they don't. Oh, I'm going to bet on them anyways. Like, what? Not to mention that Clay and Buck are actually giving out suggestions of stuff you should put in your picks. And they constantly say, oh, this is a guaranteed win, or this one's going to do it. You're going to get it here. I mean, people talk about the crypto industry. You talk about a scumbag. Just check out Clay and Buck and them pushing betting and online betting on sports, and how many people are going to lose their life savings and how many people are going to be irresponsible with it, and they don't give a fuck. They don't give a rat's ass about their listeners. And when you talk about Clay and Buck, you're talking about almost purely conservative listeners that are their fans, that are the people that love them, that are people that have listened to them for decades, and they trust them. And what are they going to do? They're going to get you addicted and drain your bank accounts for their profit. Would Jesus do that? Clay and Buck, I'm pretty sure both of you go to church. Would Jesus promote a betting platform where a majority of the people that use it lose their life savings, and a lot of them get divorced based on the statistics of gambling and all legalizing these systems per state? We have a pretty good amount of statistics now. Would Jesus do it? Would Jesus go on the radio and promote, put $5 in and get 50 guaranteed if you sign up and let us just get you in, just give you a taste? Or is that what a drug dealer would do? That's what Fauci would do. He would give you a little taste of something, get you in, get you addicted, and then he'd find a way to get his vax in you. He'd find a way to suck all those dollars out by giving you picks every week. Then you say, oh, those picks might be good or bad. You know, use at your own risk. Oh. It's gross. It's gross. I hope Glenn Beck, and I hope Mark Levin, and I hope all of these other people get hold Clay and Buck accountable and call them out. Sean Hannity, where are you at? You're right after these guys. These guys have the Rush Limbaugh spot. Why are you not holding them to accountable over promoting sports betting to your audience? Or are you okay with it? It'd be really odd to me that you guys understand the addictiveness of drugs and how we can't allow people to have drugs because it's harmful for them and it's addictive and they won't make good decisions for themselves. But you can't see that with online betting, where you don't get any product, any service, anything in return. You don't even get entertainment for it. At least if you were doing something like fantasy football, you're using it as some type of entertainment where you're building a team and you're doing something, but you're just betting on different players. Teams don't matter even. It's really sick. And then you put that next to them supporting and their radio stations being run by this shit. I just right off the bat, how does this not require a PG rating? How is this allowed to be? You have a person with smoke around them like they've been inhaling it. Is that not smoking? Does that
I
not?
don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
8,000 kids start vaping every day. Really? How many kids are there in the U.S.? 74 million. Okay. 74. Let's take. By. What did they say? 8,000. Yeah, sure. So, in 25 years, all of the kids in the United States, based off these numbers, will be vaping. 2 decades at this rate.
Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org.
Get your head out of the cloud. Talk about vaping. Hill Holiday.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain
1 in 10 kids vape.
the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The health class film guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk.
Okay. Back to the diversity check. Have you noticed that we still haven't had any more white people? So far I think we've had, and maybe I lost track, 3 white people in all of the videos we've done. That's quite diverse.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes. Look at that. You didn't even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you got to get it trending.
Instead of you having a grown-up conversation with your child and expecting them to be mature and be able to have a grown-up conversation about stuff like death, risks, rape, attack in public places, fires in the house, evacuation plans, among countless others like bedbugs and washing yourself, you should not have to make a TikTok video or dance around like a fucking buffoon to talk to your child. You and your child. This, to me, belittles your child. Look at how old she is. This is how the government thinks you should communicate to your children. You should dance around like a moron so that you can get their attention, because what's on their phone is so important, and your kids are so stupid and so unable to manage a conversation that you need to do this. If that's true, then why do you send them to a public school where a teacher stands in front of them, expects them to be an adult, and talks to them all day long? If your kid is not hearing you, then how is your kid hearing a teacher? And why do we have a public school system with a teacher that stands in front of the class and talks if your kid's not listening? Once again, $125,000 per student for 12 years of high school, or 12 years of school, including elementary. In the United States, we spend somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 per student per year. Times that by 12, and you're coming up to more than $125,000 on average per student for that education. If you as a parent can't have a serious conversation with your child, but the teachers at school can, what fucking world do you live in? And why in the world would you trust the government to tell you that?
No, you're doing it wrong.
Because that's what would happen. She would jump in with you and she would do a dance with her dad. That's what would happen. She would not say, "You're a corny douchebag, Dad. Go fuck off." How about we treat teens like young adults instead of like toddlers?
Todd's in the hospital.
From vaping. Promise you won't vape, Emma.
Not cool.
Wacky sitcom teen.
This is really similar to the purity ring. Will you wear a purity ring and promise you won't have sex before marriage? Wow! Yay! How in the world does the government or anyone expect teens to pay attention to this trash? And this is not just waste. It's not just pure propaganda bullshit of millions to billions of dollars of your money that you could be using to feed yourself and feed these children, that you're struggling to keep the heat on, and that this is what they're doing with your money instead.
Talking to your kids about the dangers of vaping can be hard. Getting them to listen to hot gossip is easy. So here's some drama you could share with your kid. Dude, did you hear about Cassie and Jake? No, but did you hear that vaping can cause irreversible lung damage and nicotine?
You know what also causes irreversible lung damage? The fires in California that the government failed to stop. Or prevent, or control. They're still going today. Have you seen one of these ads targeted at government employees to do their jobs? Or Congress to do their jobs? There's millions and millions of government employees. More than are in the LGBT community or more that are in any of these other communities. What was the number we saw earlier? 8 million for something? There's millions of government employees. And yet we don't see any of this saying, hey, maybe the government should do their job so that you don't damage children's lungs or children don't burn alive in fires like in Hawaii. No. Their goal is to tell you, if you're a veteran and you fought for this country, we got something to tell you. On a side note, the majority of the people that were addicted to cigarettes were addicted to cigarettes by the U.S. government while they were in the military. The government gave out free cigarettes during World War II and I to the troops in insane numbers. So, and they told the troops that they were healthy for them and they were good for them, and all of these lies. The government did that. And instead of the government just saying, hey, we're going to take care of all lung problems or all smoking issues because we were complicit, just like with COVID, they put it on you and they say, well, you might qualify for a free health screening or a free lung screening. You might not. You might have to pay a horrible amount of money or get insurance, or your insurance might not even cover it. But it's your fault because you smoked. Not our fault because we got you addicted to the cigarettes and lied over and over about their dangers and all the chemicals put in. On a side note, they demonize tobacco in this process. Tobacco is not what causes lung cancer. The chemicals that the cigarette companies were allowed to be put into the cigarettes by the FDA is what causes lung cancer.
How you holding up? Nothing wrong with getting help.
If I promise to look into it, will you drop it and help me build?
So right out the bat, the government's response for veterans that are struggling is to send people out to harass them. If you harass people that are struggling, it's not going to make them better. It's going to make them struggle more. Harassment is not help. Help, like a helping hand, is helpful when someone reaches their hand out to you. If you grab someone's hand and drag them along and they don't reach out to you or they don't ask, that's abuse. It's harassment. It's wrong. And if someone is a veteran that worked for our country and fought for our country and is struggling, and you're constantly going to them and telling them they need to get help, and you think that their life isn't of value because they're struggling, which is what you're saying when you're saying you need to get help. You're saying, I think you should be up here in this value and you're down here. And if you would just get help, you could be up here and everything would be fine. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm chronically ill. I'm dealing with serious stuff. And for someone to come tell me every day and harass me and say, you're sick, you got to go to the doctor, you're sick, you got to go to the doctor. The doctors that I've seen, hundreds of, that have failed me for decades, that have ruined my life and poisoned me and caused me countless problems and countless damage. The day I fired those doctors was the best day of my life in decades. You come to me and you tell me I need to go get help from the people that fucked me up? Fuck you. No, look me in the eyes. I'm right here. Fuck you. If you're a government employee and you're telling people to harass veterans because you think that they're struggling, fuck you. It's one thing to go out and say, hey man, oh my buddy, you're a soldier, you're one of my guys, you were in my platoon. Hey, how you doing? And listen to them. And be empathetic. And love on them. And be there. And maybe for a guy like this, the best option is shut the fuck up. And just be there. Be a man. Just be there. And if he wants to open his heart, and he wants to talk about his issues, and he wants to share, and he wants to ask to go to group, or he wants to ask for help, then you help him. But for you to go to somebody and to constantly harass them to the point that they say, I'll do it if you just shut the fuck up, that's wrong. This guy in real life would stop being this friend. He would not call this guy again. He wouldn't invite him over. The reason why this guy is having to come out and harass him is because this guy is disconnected with him because he's not real. He's a fake person. If this guy is really struggling and really needs help, the last thing you should do is harass them over it. It's insane.
Build this fence.
Yeah, help him build the fucking fence, douchebag. GSD and M. Veterans Affairs putting these out.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Of course.
Yes.
Have you ever asked?
I'm listening to Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck's talking about cutting government spending and the abuses of the VA government and getting a new VA lead in. And then you go to break and Glenn Beck give you an ad on sports betting, and then you get this. You can't fast forward. You can't stop. You're in a vehicle listening to a shitty-ass radio.
Ask for help yourself?
It's always tough, right? I always feel like I can solve my own problems, but eventually, you just can't deal with it on your own.
And you start to question, maybe people would be better off without me. When you realize that you're not alone, once you take that first step, there's so much support.
To have somebody go on the radio and to say a statement from a person that's giving soul and emotion, an actor obviously, they say it's real veterans, but obviously they're picking the real veteran actors. And to say the statement, maybe they're better off without me. And to plant that into people's brains and to have them who are already struggling repeat that statement that they just heard in their brain and reestablish that pathway is insane. It's insanity that we're paying tax dollars to have people that are struggling with mental health issues have the U.S. government jump into their brain in the middle of them driving somewhere and bring up a mental health issue. Are you a fucking moron on the other side of the screen? The people that make this stuff, are you stupid? This is one of the reasons why I started this podcast or this news or report or whatever. Why I wanted to talk about this is because one of these ads that I don't think is here anymore that they pulled had war sounds, gunfire, bombs going off, explosions going off. They're talking about veterans that are suffering from PSD that have been in combat zones that have a hard time when a backfire goes off or when the 4th of July happens because of fireworks, and they're putting war sounds on the radio while they're driving, trying to listen to a conservative radio just to get the news. They have gunfire and bombs and explosions going off. This is the type of sick fuckbags that work at the VA, that work in the government. People that don't understand the torture that these people are going through to the point that they're going to put this type of audio out on the radio so these guys can flash back in the middle of driving their fucking car? For what? For what win here? These troops are accessible through the VA system. You do not need to put this on the radio to the entire fucking world. Why? Why is this on the radio? Why is this being put into a conservative radio as a PSA to reach troops when the VA hospital and the U.S. military has access directly to the email, to the phone number, to the at the hospital bed of every one of these people? But when they show up in the hospital, you red flag them and you kick them out. Or you call the police. When they need your help, you don't help them. I personally know vets that have sued the local VA and won because of how they were treated and lies from the doctors and surgeries that weren't needed. You're telling me that this ad is important and that this is the way to do it when you can't even take care of the vets showing up at the hospitals that are pleading for help, that are asking you for help. You red flag them and put them back out on the street. If a veteran uses cannabis, you take away their meds and take away their medical care. You red flag them and send them out or put them on the 3rd floor. How fucking dare you? And then you come out here and say this type of propaganda bullshit. They were part of a troop. They're part of an army. They went out to boot camp and worked every fucking day to be part of a group, to be part of a team, and you're telling them that they don't understand how to ask for help or how to reach out or how to be part of a group or a team or a society or a community? They built the fucking community. You're the government trying to tear down the community. You're the government that stuck the cigarettes in the hands. You're the government that doesn't take care of them when they need help, and you're telling them that they're the ones that are struggling with making community and being part of it? Fuck you. You are the government that's done this to them. You put them in these wars. You put them in 9/11. You put them in these places. You failed your job over and over and over, and now your solution is to tell them that they're not asking for help? Fuck you. The fact that Clay and Buck put this shit on the radio and sponsor it and allow it and do not fight against it every day and tell every one of these radio stations, we're not putting our show on your stations until you stop running this garbage trash propaganda. Oh, this is the bonus cut.
Helped a fellow veteran?
Yes.
I can help others, but I can't help myself. If only the government would tell me and order me to help myself, I could do it. What kind of government has so little value in their troops and their soldiers and the people that they trained in boot camp, they had in government schools for 12 years, they had in the military for most likely 4 to 20 years, and they still can't ask for help? So you're talking about government that controls 20 to 30 years of your life, and that government is so toxic and so broken that after that amount of time being in the military and being in the government, you don't know how to ask for fucking help? But an ad is going to do it. An ad on the radio or TV is going to do it. And if we could just shove that ad down your throat every 15 minutes, if we could just harass you and harass you and harass you with it until you get it, until you get that help. And if you don't, well, we'll be there for you. My brother had a mental health breakdown, set his house on fire. He's a veteran. He was at the VA hospital on the floor. He asked for help. They gave him medicine that fucked him up, and the day they released him, he burned his house down. He kept saying, the medicine they're giving me is causing me these thoughts and these problems. When the police arrested him, I went in front of the judge and said, the VA hospital is managing his medicine and managing his care. Where are they? They are the ones that said he was healthy enough to leave and be in society. He asked for help. The VA hospital took him in and said they would help him. They said they helped him and released him, and he burned his house down. He went to jail for 5 years for that. At no point did the VA hospital or the U.S. military show up to defend him. At no point did the U.S. military send a doctor down to say this is the care we were doing, or these were the issues that were caused by our chemicals that we exposed him to during the Iraq War. At no point did the government take any accountability at all. In fact, the government at one point caused him to become a felon. of the state of Colorado because he was at their facility and it was supposed to be at a court hearing and they wouldn't release him. Because they wouldn't release him, the judge ordered a warrant for his arrest, creating him as or marking him as a felon, even though the judge knew he was at the VA hospital, the place where he should be to get help by the VA hospital, by the military and the government. So he reached out, he asked for help, and the government bent him over and fucked him with their drugs. And then when the drugs fucked him up, they took no accountability for it and let him rot in jail for 5 years. The federal government is abhorrent. And the fact that they say the solution is you to ask for help is a lie and pure propaganda. Because you can look at story after story of veterans asking for the government's help. It typically ends up in a lot of death. Just like when Ukraine asked for the government's help. And 1.5 million people are now dead in Ukraine and Russia. Let's get back to, we already did fentanyl. We're already over 2 hours, so let's do just a few more. I think you get the point. If you're still with me, thank you. Young adolescents 10 to 16. YouTube and the federal government has said that advertising to children under 13 is against the law. You're not allowed to advertise to children. And yet, here we are. We have the government itself making ads for 10 to 12-year-olds and playing these ads on the radio and on social media platforms. With your tax dollars, by the way. McCain. All of these groups are getting money.
Hey, boss. Okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
You sure?
I said I'm fine.
You notice exactly what they said to do with the vet. Keep asking. Keep asking. Yeah, that's what the vet would have done. Fuck you. And left.
I was little. It was only like me and my parents.
You think you created family out of characters?
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna take that, make it into a song.
This is really creepy. So this kid goes up to his room and there's just some rapper in his bedroom? What the fuck is going on? What is it, P. Diddy? Oh man, that would be so good. Oh, could you imagine if they had a PSA ad council with P. Diddy in some kid's room? Oh, pretty close.
Some people judge a book by its cover.
Like the government right now forcing you to judge this kid by his cover. Literally what this propaganda is. It's just ridiculous. This stuff is so fucking ridiculous. All of these. Not only is it out of touch and it's not connecting with whoever the fuck they think it should be connecting with. Let's see what Path to Recovery is. Start with hope. Shatterproof Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. What?
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating.
Oh, now we're back to drugs.
And so, as a black woman in recovery,
now we're back to racist
hope
drugs.
Must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens.
If you just be vulnerable and ask for help, everything will be better. Your value, once again, Because you aren't vulnerable and you're not asking for help, your value is down here. And if you just be vulnerable and ask for help, I would put forth that if you're an addict and you're addicted to substances, your being vulnerable is most likely one of your biggest problems. Right? It's the drug dealer and the people that are taking advantage of you because you're vulnerable. Now, you could just stop drinking and buying the alcohol and being a responsible adult with moderation. You could put the crack down, stop cooking the meth. You don't have to be vulnerable for that. You don't even have to ask for help. You can just stop doing it. I mean, look at how many Hollywoodites who have asked for help and go to rehab. Spend months in rehab. All the help in the world. All the vulnerability in the world. And then they die of an overdose. Because they just didn't stop. It's binary. Stop. What else? Alzheimer's awareness is just a complete farce. It's just completely fucking ridiculous. Oh, let's do flu. Yeah, I think it's flu and COVID still. The last one I heard was get your flu and COVID shots. Yeah, the COVID vax that was pulled because it's making people sick. Yeah, that one.
Atención, equipo. Cuando miro a mi alrededor, veo un valiente grupo de anticuerpos. Y no voy a...
So once again, this is American tax dollars being funded and supported and propping up the radio stations and the TV stations. Clay and Buck, Glenn Beck, are the ones helping put these messages out. These messages are being played on the radio stations that they're on.
Acérquense. Sean lo valientes que son, pero...
Every day, every few minutes. Let's go ahead and listen live. See what we get.
Common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level. When you have 60 planes coming in during a short period of time, and they're all coming in different directions, and you're dealing with very high-level computer work and very complex computers. And one of the other things I will tell you is that the systems that were built, I was going to rebuild the entire system, and then we had an election that didn't turn out the way it should have. But they didn't build the systems properly. They spent a lot of money renovating a system, spending much more money than they would have spent if they bought a new system for air traffic controllers, meaning the computerized systems. There are certain companies that do a very good job. They didn't use those companies. They used companies that should not have been doing it. No, I think it's very important to understand that for some jobs, and not only this, but air traffic controllers, they have to be at the highest level of genius.
And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with him stating the... I don't understand this whole DEI thing. The Democrats defend it, they promote it, they institute it, they seek to enshrine it, and then when you criticize it, you're called a racist for pointing it out. Now, which is it? Is it a valuable tool?
Now, at the same time, Mark, I think this is Mark Levin, you know, he's on a radio station right now that has all of this DEI advertising that's putting this diversity bullshit out on the radio to his customers. He profits from it. He uses it as a method to get his message out while it's getting out to all of this trash is getting out. And when you tell them about it and you say liberty, you are supposed to be standing for liberty. It says, in defense of liberty. And yet, this is the type of shit that Mark Levin considers liberty?
We all deserve a place to call home. That's an American dream.
This is the U.S. Ad Council using U.S. tax dollars and corporate funds to put this message out to Mark Levin's customers every day.
The freedom to live in safety. That's an American dream.
Is this the message that Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity want? Going out after they talk every day?
Hate is loud. It gets clicks. It gets attention. Hate, however, is actually quite small. But love is the majority. Love fills our hearts.
Did you see the math on that?
Our lives. Our everyday.
No labels. Love has no labels. Let's check the numbers. What's this messaging? So, hate is a small number.
Hate is loud. It gets clicks. It gets attention. Hate, however...
Okay. 300 million haters, right? It just so happens that there's 300 million U.S. citizens and Americans. It's just by happenstance that they're saying that the haters are 300 million, but
quite small.
There's 2.8 billion people on the planet.
Is the majority.
So the solution to our problems is world acceptance, and the problem that we're having right now is the United States. You know, the racists.
The opportunity to work for a better life. That's an American dream.
Based on solely who they are. It had nothing to do with what they said or their actions or how they presented themselves or their merit. None of that had anything to do. Just simply who they are. Simply who they are. At birth? Or genetically? Or now? Or tomorrow? When? When should we accept them? Should we always accept them? What if they're 10 and they say they want to cut their dick off? Should we accept them like that? What if they're 10 and they say they want to smoke cigarettes? Because that's who they are. No, see, if they're 10 and they want to smoke cigarettes, then, oh, that's evil. If they're 10 and they want to watch an R-rated movie, that's evil. Government needs to step in. If they're 10 and they want to drink alcohol, that's evil. Government needs to step in. If they're 10 and they want to cut their tits off, that's who they are. If they're 10 and they want to smoke cannabis, that's evil. The government should step in. If they're 10 and they don't want to go to a government propaganda factory school, then that's evil and the government should force them. If they're 10 and they want to get contacts, That's evil, and the government should step in. Do you see how all of these things don't work? It doesn't work. If you're 10 and you'd like to join the military, if you're 10 and you like to drive, if you're 10 and you like to walk home from school, if you're 10 and you'd like to go on a roller coaster. Wait. A roller coaster has a height. Okay. So, if I show up and I'm not tall enough to ride the roller coaster, they're judging me based on who I am. Now, should they let me get on the roller coaster so I kill myself and die because it's who I am? Or should they step in and say, you're not tall enough or old enough to get on this ride? Allowing a child under 18, I'd say probably even if you're going to make the drinking age 21, then you should make the age to cut your dick off 21. Now, I'm totally for lowering the age of drinking to 18 because you can join the military at 18. If you can shoot a gun and you can go out and kill things and kill humans, you should be able to drink. And if we have a problem with moderation and children or 18 plus or whatever drinking too much and crashing their car or killing people and not being responsible, maybe we should have a ad council ad about it, because ad council ads save everything. They save us. They stop drunk driving. All these ads you see, they've been going for decades. They've solved wildfires. They've solved drug overdoses. This propaganda has solved every problem that it's ever tried to solve. Oh, no it didn't. It didn't solve any problem. It just wasted tax dollars and pissed off more people and wasted our time, our most valuable asset, by putting propaganda on the radio and making people think about suicide while driving. People that were having a nice day thinking about how fucked up the government is, have the government come on with an ad council ad saying, hey, remember that war you were in? We put you in illegally where there weren't any weapons of mass destruction and you were exposed to chemicals that we won't disclose that make you fucked up in the brain and we won't take care of you now? You remember that? Did it make you crazy? Did it make you crazy? Have you thought about suicide today? Well, think about it now. We'll be back in 15 minutes to talk about suicide again. 15 minutes. We'll be back with another ad council ad about suicide. Did you know that your family is better off without you? Like, what kind of fucked up government sees somebody driving down the road in their car and thinks, man, that guy, we put him in war 20 years ago? Let's remind him about it. Let's see if he's thinking about killing himself today. Oh, yeah. He's having a nice day, and we're going to have some gunshots and some explosions, and boom, bam, boom. What kind of fucked up psychopath works at the ad council and is making this shit up? Smokey is a furry. He's been around for 30 fucking plus years. A long time. Probably way longer than that. Long as I've been alive. I think the message of put out your fires is probably fine. Was it too much? Too often? Probably. Once again, if you've got people for 12 years in your government schools and you can't tell them and teach them how to put a fucking fire out, fuck you. An ad's not going to do it. So, what are you doing then? Well, we'll put another ad out about love and peace and justice. Diversity. Remember, we're still at, like maybe did we get some more white people? Like 5 white
We're all
people
presumed innocent
for
until
this
proven
and
guilty.
all of these ads.
Only
we've
those of
watched.
us who can't afford bail have to.
So already, according to the government, the only people that have mental health issues and are poor or struggling with suicide or aren't prepared for emergencies are minorities. Because I don't see anybody that looks like me in here. And I don't see anybody that looks like my I don't see anybody that looks like most of the other people in my town. I live in a poor part of the town. Where's the poor PSAs? Where's the, we know you can't afford dinner tonight, but just shave off a little extra cheese. You know, I get the shredded cheese. Just do 3 pieces of shredded cheese tonight. That will leave you 5 pieces of shredded cheese tomorrow. Where's those PSAs? Where's the how to cook rats? You know, how to healthily cook rats. That's a good PSA. You know, with all the immigrants, how about a PSA how to healthily cook cats? There's a lot of stray cats outside, and I'm pretty sure that they're not disappearing because people are full. I think they're disappearing because people are hungry. And at, you know, the mean income where I live is $10,000 a year, average. I live in the United States. Tell me how people live $10,000 a year. They're eating the cats and the rats, and they're getting by however they can. And the government's feeding them. A lot of the times when the government would say, we got to get these kids back to government schools, is because we're feeding them. 50 million kids get their meals from government schools every day. Instead of the government saying, well, we should give parents more of their money and in income tax and stop taxing at $20,000 to $30,000 per student for failing schools that can't even teach how to put out a fucking fire, the government feeds the kids trash food. You know who gets the worst meat in America from the farmers? The prisons, and then the schools, and then the hospitals. Because just like you saw, it's cheap, it's easy, and it's affordable to feed the worst food to your children and the prisoners and the people that can't complain, that are forced to be there every day. So while people are hungry, struggling to heat their houses, they're struggling to keep their cars running so they can go to their jobs that don't pay the bills, 2 and 3 and 4 jobs. The government ad council is here for you.
Wait trial in jail. That's not right. And that's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
The United States government is paying for an ad to end cash bail.
Thousands of parents await trial in jail tonight, separated from their children simply because they can't afford bail. Cash bail is unjust. That's why the Bail Project helps those who cannot afford it.
Do you notice that it looks like a Mr. Beast video?
While fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
Do you notice that the minority issue? By looking at this, you're saying the only people that are being arrested are minorities. The only people that are being unjustly put in jails and have bail problems are minorities. The Ad Council, are you racist? You also obviously have a diversity and DEI problem because the percentage of white people represented do not represent culture, doesn't represent the country, and the percentages are like 1%. I can't fathom even the worst Hollywood woke game or movie going to this extent where we've watched countless videos and 3 to 5 of them have been white. It sure doesn't look like the government cares about me.
A little history. When our founders drafted the Bill of Rights, they included the 8th Amendment to prohibit excessive cash bail. They never meant for it to hold people in jail. They knew excessive bail would create a two-tiered system of justice, one for the rich and one for everyone else.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did the founders support a government public education system? Did the government support propaganda videos by like the Ad Council? Did the founders support giving money from the federal government to states during disasters? No. To all of those. The founders warned us about gathering large populations into cities and that would be the death of the republic. And yet, do we see anything from the Ad Council about that? Do we see anything from the Ad Council about the responsible management of space and resources and not gathering together in large populations like New York and LA? About how corruption would raise and crime would raise and people would die and those concentrations and government corruption would raise? That they had seen this when they came from Europe, that Europe had these large cities and large governments, and they saw how the corruption got larger and larger as you centralize population, and that decentralization of the population was actually the secret to America, that gathering the people out in smaller communities where communities would connect. No. 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 Personally, I think the bail program's a joke. I think the incarceration system that we have is a joke. Once again, my brother was jailed for 5 years, and I would talk to him weekly and hear horror stories of the jail and the guards and the system and how they were treated. At that point, he wasn't even able to file complaints. The state has a requirement that prisoners have the ability to file complaints against guards, but they used an iPad or a tablet, and those tablets were offline and broken for many years. During that time, he was not allowed to file any complaints against the guards or anyone else. Do you see the Ad Council out talking about those crimes and those offenses and the prisons for profit? No, because that's not diversity. That's not diverse. White people deal with those issues. The Ad Council is racist. And I know you're saying, well, we hear racist a lot. Everybody's a racist. You're a racist because you're white. You're racist because you played a LGBTQ plus blah, blah, blah and talked about it, so you must be racist. The difference is, I didn't make these videos with only minorities. I didn't pick these subjects. I didn't pick what to fund. I didn't pick to exclude whites and white subjects from the videos. The Ad Council and the people that made these did. And the fact that people like Glenn Beck and the people on the radio stations that profit off of the Ad Council, and the radio stations that play their shows profit off the Ad Council, and the corporations that back the Ad Council, and the government that backs the Ad Council. How many times do you hear Hannity talk about racial injustice and justice issues? How many times have you heard Glenn Beck talk about DEI and defunding the woke machine while profiting on the woke machine? How about Mark Levin? Mark Levin constantly talks about the woke DEI machine while profiting on the woke DEI machine. At some point, they have to be called to account. And I know this is 2.5, 3 hour video. I hope that Asmongold and many others that actually watch this content and watch things that are out there review it and look at it and say. Now, a lot of you will say, do we need the government to be able to communicate to the citizens important subjects? It's an interesting conversation. And if Congress wanted to get together and pass a law that everybody agreed to, I think I would be more acceptive of it. But this is not Congress funding this. This is not Congress passing laws saying we should do this. This is agents and agencies that are unelected people, that are appointed and funded by unelected people, and these programs and this propaganda is being selected by unelected people with no accountability. So you get Microsoft coming with the ad council to give us propaganda. Where in the world did the founders say or ever put forth that corporations and the government should get together to pay to propagandize civilians and citizens with tax dollars? Once again, the citizens are in the schools for 12 plus years. Forcibly, by government law, they are required to attend an education program. If you are unable to teach these students how to put a fire out in that amount of time, no 30-second ad is going to do it. And you could say, well, we need to remind people, or we need to talk about current issues like love and stuff. Maybe they've been out of school and we have older populations. Then that should be their choice to come to you to get that information. You using tax dollar funds and corporate funds and going and giving special deals to radio stations so that you can propagandize civilians and citizens every 15 minutes or every ad break is immoral. It's unethical, and it should be criminal. It should be criminal to advertise to children these subjects. It should be criminal to go on the radio and talk about and go on TV and show mountains of cigarettes piling up and implying that those people are valueless or have less value or at some risk because of their choices. Just because the percentages in a study says something doesn't give you the right to go and harass citizens. It doesn't give you the right to say you're at risk, because you don't know if they're at risk. You don't know their genetics. You don't know their history. You're using a huge net, throwing it out there to millions and millions. Rush Limbaugh had 20 million people total listening. How many of those people fall into any one of these groups? Very few. The biggest would be the military and the mental health issues, because a lot of the viewers are former military or currently in the military. But in those cases, you have direct access to them through the military and the government. You control their lives. You control the decisions of their lives. And yet you're putting this information out to all citizens, not just military. You're telling me about the problems that you caused. You fucked up our troops. And now you're putting ads out telling our troops they need to ask for help? You for help? Fuck you. This government needs to be defunded and scuttled. Defund Congress, defund the U.S. federal government, return the funds to the states, defund the Ad Council and all of these scummy ass programs from one side to the other. Let's get them out of here, let's take them away, and let's be done with them. So that's me. I'm CyberAxe with Outlandishly Reported. This has been our first video. We're going to put this on a channel. I also do game development and other stuff. You can check out my other channels. If you like this, please give us a thumbs up. Share it out with other people. Please, if you know Clay and Buck, call them douchebags. Please. Call them up. Say, man, you guys have been profiting off the Ad Council. The Ad Council's been propping up these radio stations for all of this time, and you knew this. and you didn't call this out? You didn't call out over the last 4 years of the Biden administration using the radio network to spread their word and harass citizens. You just allowed it to happen. That's gross. And you should be ashamed of yourself, Clay and Buck. You should also be ashamed for promoting gambling and betting. I know some of you, Clay and Beck fall somewhere in like conservative to middle to libertarian, and they just pick which one they want, it seems like, at any moment. So they could have social, oh, we really want to have social programs, oh, we need this, but then we hate this, oh, you should be able to gamble and make, libertarian do it, but you can't smoke cannabis. You can gamble and ruin your life with gambling. We know it's addictive, we know it ruins families, but cannabis, you can't have that choice. You can't have that freedom. So they pick and choose the things that they want, And so I don't think that they have the balls to come out and tell their radio stations to ditch these ads. They got these little raisins. And people with raisins don't, stand up for what's right. They just go along with the flow, which is what they've been doing. So I don't expect anything to change. But if you do know them, please call them out on supporting gambling. I think listen, I'm on the libertarian side. I think Americans should have the right to gamble. I do not think conservatives and people on the former Rush Limbaugh show should be advertising high-risk activities to their customers, the customers that have supported and loved them. The outcome of sports gambling is very poor for most of the population, the people that get involved. Why would you want to support something that has such a poor outcome for so many people? It's one thing to sell coffee because people get a profit. You say you give 10% out to whatever organization, which is a joke, 10%. 10%. You guys make so much money in so many places. You can only give 10% to donate. Look at Mr. Beast. Look at what Mr. Beast has done with his money and how many millions of people he's helped and affected around the world. And look at what you're doing with your 10%. Yet, how much money do you make at the sports gambling? How much money can you have? Can you be Oprah level? How many houses can you have? You guys call out Oprah all the time. You call out these rich slobs in Hollywood with their multiple homes. And yet, how many do you have? 10%. That's all you could come up with to give out. I mean, 10% is not even a discount. Most people would even get a coupon out for to scan. But that's all you can take from the coffee profits that you do nothing for but just preach about them on the radio. So, I miss Rush Limbaugh. I'm disgusted by Clay and Buck. Often their show is frustrating to listen to because they talk about sports and so many stupid subjects nobody gives a rat's ass about. They come from the sports talk radio. There's like 7 sports talk radio stations where I live, and there's 1 news radio. There's 1 conservative talk station. And when I listen to it, I have to get all of this propaganda and all of this shit. And then when I listen to Clay and Buck, I have to get sports betting ads and their shit. And then they talk about sports and shit. There's a monopoly on conservative radio. And it was okay when Rush Limbaugh had it because he was the king and the GOAT and he cared about us. And he actually cared about his fans and his customers and his listeners. And I don't believe Clay and Buck care about us. I don't think somebody that cares about you. Would you go to your son or daughter, even if you don't think they have an addictive personality, would you go to them right now and say, hey, put $5 in and get $50 on this gambling app? Just a little sniff. Just a little bit. No. Because you care about your family members. You wouldn't want your son or your son-in-law or your daughter to get addicted to a gambling app and lose their money and their well-being and their livelihood. But you're willing to do that to your customer base. The same customer base that the U.S. government is saying is having mental issues and struggling and having problems. There's a disconnect there. Something's wrong. Your words don't match your actions. You say that you care. You say that you want us to be here. And then we have to listen to this abusive shit to hear you. So, this has been a fuck you to the ad council. I hope anybody that knows Elon or Trump or anybody that hears this, Vivek, puts the ad council on the chopping block and defunds it. And let's be done with this propaganda. And I hate to say, if we lose some conservative radio stations in the process, that is solely the fault of Glenn Beck and Clay and Buck and Mark Levin and the station and the radio, IPs that are on these stations that refuse to push the money down in the stations and keep them healthy. If your radio station has to use these ads to stay functional, you shouldn't have this radio station.